Hello everyone, this is part 2 of my early years on cruise ships, and I just wanted to go over to let you know some of the cruise lines that I've worked on to give you an idea of the scope of how long I've been in the business and how many cruise lines I worked for over 30 years. I think it was like 38 years. Again, I came and went, I did different things, but I always went back to ships. So these are a list of the ships that are the cruise lines that I worked on, not the ships. Now, many of these cruise lines have many ships, and I work for sometimes 10, 15 ships on that one cruise line. So start off Royal Viking, I worked for at least 3 ships that they had. Sunline, I worked on 1 ship. They used to sail the Amazon run. Cunard, did a couple ships for them. Sea Goddess was on 1 ship for that. By the way, I'll be telling a story later on when Donald Trump and Leona Helmsley were guests on that ship back in the late 1980s. Windstar, the sailing ship that was still around, beautiful ships, but they also have suites all the way around, really great ships to work on. P&O Australia, Celebrity. I was one of the very first cruise directors on Celebrity way back in the early 1990s. Holland America, that's the last cruise line I worked for almost 3 years ago. Carnival, been on many Carnival ships. Carnival's probably my favorite cruise line to work on. Royal Caribbean, been on many of their ships. NCL, many of their ships. Princess, I've been on like 3 other Princess ships. And so that just gives you a little idea of how long I've been on ships and how many ships I've been on. So in the last video, I talked about Royal Viking, my first cruise line. I did 3 contracts with them. Some of my fondest memories ever back in the day when things were so much different than they are now. We had so much fun. Pretty much any staff member could go anywhere on the ship. Like, say if you worked in a casino, when you weren't working, you could go out by the pool, lay down by the pool, order a cup of coffee or a drink or whatever. You could go to the ship, go to the buffets. You could go to the dining room. You had to get permission to go to the dining room, but it was very easy to do. You just went to the maitre d', and if they had a table, they'd give you a table. And as long as you didn't do it every day. Now with me, because of my contract as a stage manager, I went from assistant stage manager to assistant stage manager number 1 to stage manager. In my contract, since sometimes I would have to work during dinner, I'd have a show like that, pre-dinner shows and dinner and shows after dinner. So when I would have to work during those dinner times, in my contract, it said that I could order off the dining room menu and have it sent to my cabin. And I didn't discover this time. I've been on the ship for a couple of months. And I said, I'm just going to try this out. So I was in a guest cabin, and my girlfriend Ava, who was from Austria, came over. And we called up the dining room, said, hi, this is Mark, stage manager. Gave my cabin number. I had the menu there. And we wrote down all the things we wanted. And we ordered the food. And like about 45 minutes later, knock on the door, and they had, just like a nice hotel. It was a little rolling table with everything on there, all the entrees, everything you wanted, roll it right in, all for free. It cost us nothing. Back then, we didn't tip anybody. And, I realized that, this is great, So we did this, once or twice, a week. And of course, on the ships, you're never going to go hungry. There's always food. Like back then, on every deck, for room service, they had like a little pantry. And in the pantry, they had like cold dishes, like fruit and cheese and things like that, and a refrigerator, milk and Cokes and stuff like that, that they would use for, late night room service. We knew that where that was, so we just go in there, help ourselves. We go down to the bakery and they're baking the breads and pastries and stuff. Hey, how you doing? And they'd hand us a bunch of pastries and stuff. We take it back to our room. So, you're never going to starve on a cruise ship. But some of the things we did, like on that ship, I want to remember this story. We were sailing out of Southampton in England. This again, early 1980s. And again, on Royal Viking was just so great. We had all these really cool guest lecturers, really important people. They'd come on board and do these fantastic lectures. And since I was in charge of setting up the slide projectors, the microphones, podiums, all that stuff, I was usually the one that had to do these. And for me, I loved it. Well, the other guys wanted the production shows in the main show lounge. And for those, I'd run Spotlight or whatever I had to do. But anyway, we had Dr. James Ballard on, who discovered the Titanic. And he was a really cool guy. He came on board, And he had all these artifacts from the Titanic and all these slides and films and everything. Did a whole presentation and showed us all these things and told us the whole story about the Titanic. But what was cool is we stopped the ship, because we sailed out of Southampton. We stopped the Royal Viking Sky right over where the Titanic was sunk. And the captain came out, Dr. Ballard was there. We had a whole ceremony, a very somber ceremony, and we threw a wreath over the side of the ship and then continued on. So, you know, that was kind of cool. Later on, I remember it was around Christmas time, and my first Christmas on a cruise ship. You know, you're away from home and everything, and you know what you're going to do for Christmas. And it was our job to, as stage manager, to decorate the entire ship. And so we had all these Christmas trees they'd sent to the ship. I don't know where they got them from, live Christmas trees. You can never do it today because of fire regulations. We set up probably 20 trees around the ship, all over the place, lights, ornaments, all the things. Captain came out from Norway, looked at the trees, said, I hate these trees suck. I want new trees, get rid of them. Okay? We were in Pacific Northwest, you know, up by Canada. And so they sent some baxes off, and we get to the first port in Canada, I don't remember where it was, and we had to take down all the trees, take off all the ornaments, throw them away. All these new beautiful bristlecone pine trees came on board. Not bristlecone pine, but blue spruce trees. Beautiful trees came on board, and we redecorated the entire ship. And then for Christmas, the entertainment department had what's called a Secret Santa. And the way the Secret Santa worked was there was like probably 30 people in the entertainment department. There was a cruise director, assistant cruise director, a couple cruise staff, social hostess, then like a comedian, a magician and his wife, a dance team, a ventriloquist, pianist, classical guitarist, and you know, you get the idea. It was like a variety show, almost like America's Got Talent, but nobody got eliminated. It wasn't like you see today where they do these same production shows where it's a medley of songs, like, you know, old rock and roll or jazz or Broadway tunes, whatever, and they never finish a song. These were actual acts that came on board, and they were kind of plug and play. Like this act would stay on for a few months, and they would leave, another one would come on board, and you'd mix them up. Like one night you'd have, you know, a singer, a dance team, and a magician. And the next night you'd have ventriloquist, dance team, and a juggler. You know, always mix it up like two or three acts every night. So anyway, we had the whole entertainment department, and we all put our names in a hat, drew it out. And I drew out the assistant cruise director. And he drew out, the assistant cruise director drew me, and I drew one of the entertainers. I think he was a singer, if I don't remember. But anyway, the way it worked is for like a week or two, is every day you had a little gift that you give, something small, nothing big, like a little tiny small gift. But you'd hide it on the ship, and you give them clues. And so this guy here, I really got into it. Like, for example, I hid one of his gifts on top of the smokestack. And so I sent a little note underneath his cabin door, and he opened it up and said, you know, walk down, you know, 10 cabins from where you are, go up the steps. By cabin 4, there's a fire extinguisher, under the fire extinguisher. And there'd be another clue. Go up to deck number 12, walk behind the buffet counter, go into the galley, underneath the ice chest, another clue. So I sent them all over the ship, you know, like 10 different places. And then finally, the final one, you know, up on the smokestack. And back then, you could go anywhere on the ship. I could climb on top of the smokestack, I could go up on the bridge, I could go down the engine room, anywhere. Nobody said a word. Oh, hi Mark, how you doing? And so I sit him up on the smokestack. This guy's afraid of heights. And there's a ladder that, like, you know, rungs on the side of the smoke. He climbs up there, and it was at night. He climbs all the way up there, and I had his little gift there. And his last one, I sent him all over the ship again for the day before Christmas. And I had a pair of fins and a mask that I borrowed from the sports team. And I hid those in a fire locker. And I had him swim to the bottom of the swimming pool, and that's where I hid his final gift. And the assistant cruise director, who was my Secret Santa, he was gay. And he gave me all these really nice things, like really nice clothes, you know. So it was kind of fun. But those kind of things we did. We had great parties. And on some of the ships, they do this still on Carnival today. But you know, when you come on ships, everybody's coming and going at different times. So say you get on a ship and you might have a 6-month contract. So you're going to be there for 6 months. But you meet somebody else, they've already been there for 3 months and they got a 4-month contract. We got an 8-month contract. So they're leaving. So nobody's there for the same amount of time. Like the only exception is maybe the cast members. The entire cast will usually change over at once. And so people are coming and going all the time. And so when you meet someone, like you get into a relationship, you never know how long it's going to, be, because like she could be leaving in 3 months or a month or 2 weeks. A friend of mine, Omar, we were on a Royal Caribbean ship, and he met this girl working in the buffet. She was from Romania. Omar's from Brazil, but lives in Miami, and met this girl, Lily, and just fell for this girl really hard. And we signed off the ship because of a contract dispute. We rented a van, and me and Omar, we drove all the way from Miami to Vegas. You know, he'd never been across America. I just wanted to show him America. He was my best friend. Went all the way across America. We stopped at all the, touristy places along the way. We got to Vegas, we stayed at a couple hotels, and saw some things in Vegas. And he starts getting all depressed. What's the matter? Oh, I got to see her. She's leaving soon. And he'd only known this girl for 2 weeks. 2 weeks, literally, when we got off the ship. And so we stopped in Utah, and I had a Mitsubishi 3000 GT and a Yukon Denali that I'd stored there. And so I drove the Yukon. I gave Omar the Mitsubishi 3000 GT, and we started heading back towards Miami. And I told him, I said, look, don't worry about me. Just keep on going and go see Lily, because she was going to be in Miami. She was changing ships. And he did, and he found her. And make a long story short, they're married today. It's been, 10 years ago. Happily married. And those things happen on ships. Another thing that happened, not on Royal Viking, but on another ship that I worked on called Sunline. It was like shortly after there I worked on that ship. And we were the very first ship to ever sail up the Amazon River. And so we started the cruises in Rio, and then we would sail 1,000 miles up the Amazon River, stopping at little villages along the way. And as we were going up, we'd stop at some little village, nothing there, but the guests all wanted to see it, and they'd get off the ship and look around, take pictures, and the kids are there with snakes and stuff, and they're little tiny villages, and I'd always go swimming in the Amazon River. And I had a mask and snorkel, and you may not know this, but in the Amazon is where a lot of your tropical fish come from, like your neon tetras, your angelfish. A lot of the fish you see for sale in aquariums around the world actually come from the Amazon. And it's actually some of the cleanest water in the world. It's a very, very clean river, but it's got like a golden tint to it because of all the plant matter that falls into the river all the way, of its 1,000 miles, whatever it is. And if you ever had a swimming pool that's got leaves in it, or a fish pond that has leaves in it, when the leaves disintegrate, they turn the water golden. That's the way the Amazon is. It's got that golden tint to it. And something else is that when you're sailing into the Amazon from out to sea, you can start seeing the Amazon River like 100 miles out to sea. And you get within, like, say, 60 miles of the mouth of the Amazon River, you could take a bucket on a rope and drop it down into the ocean, pull it up, and you have fresh water, because the fresh water sits on top of the salt water. But anyway, we went up the Amazon River, and you see pink dolphins and all kinds of cool stuff. And everybody was afraid that I was going to get eaten by piranhas or something. Piranhas are really harmless when you swim with them. It's just another fish. What you do have to watch out for are anacondas. Anacondas, if they see you and they're big enough, they will eat a guy even as big as me. I'm 6'4", 220 pounds. They would eat me, swallow me whole. But fortunately, I never saw an anaconda. And the caimans down there, they don't have crocodiles like you see in Africa. The caimans aren't really big enough to be a problem. But anyway, I'd swim there and they'd all take pictures of me and stuff. But then we'd get to Manaus, and those people would all get off, And we put them in buses, we take them to the airport, and then we would go and do, we'd pick up like another 2,000 people and bring them. We'd sail all the way back down to Rio and rinse, repeat. We do that every 2 weeks. And while I was in Rio, I was there for Carnival a couple times, which is an amazing thing. I'd have to take a tour to the Samba. There's a great big stadium, and the Carnival goes on for like 3 days, nonstop, 24 hours a day. And so I'd have 2 bus loads of people, senior citizens. I'd have to get them off the buses like 3 blocks from the Samba. And Rio can be kind of a dangerous place, especially at night. I have to safely get them to the Samba, get them in their seats, let them watch the parade for like an hour or 2, then get them back on the buses, safely back to the ship. Then me and my girlfriend could go out. And we would go out, because there was the Samba in the stadium where the rich people went, and there's the Samba in the streets of Rio. And so we'd go out the streets of Rio, like it's like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And it's like this bizarre thing, all this stuff going on. It's just like a constant, it's like Mardi Gras in New Orleans times 100. And I remember the first time we were there, our first night, my girlfriend and I went out. We dressed down whenever you're in Rio, like no watches, no bracelets, no jewelry, just plain clothes. Like I had jeans on, my girlfriend had jeans on, t-shirt. But I did have this little fanny pack thing, like little leather fanny pack, but I never wore it on my back, or I always wore it on my side. It felt cooler that way, like I had a 6-gun or something, but it was just a fanny pack. And anyway, we're standing there, me and my girlfriend, Jilly, and we're watching the parade go by and all the dancing and everything. And this guy, he comes up next to me, and he's standing next to me, and he's just reaching down. He's looking straight ahead, but his hands are like this, and he's slowly unzipping the fanny pack and trying to get his hand in there to steal what was inside. And I see what he's doing, but I act like I don't see it. And so I just wait, and all of a sudden I just look like this and go, bam, I hit him in the chin with my elbow, and he just dropped like a rock. I mean, just went out like he was unconscious, just laid there, and we just calmly walked away like we didn't know what happened. But that's the only time in all my years of being in other countries anybody ever tried to rob me. Wait, I take it back. One time, again, when I first started on ships, I was in an island in the Caribbean, and I had these baggy khaki pants on. I just got paid. I had like $500 in my wallet, and I bought a magazine, put my wallet back. I got back to the ship, my wallet was gone, and a pickpocket had got it. But those are the only 2 times something happened to me that I remember. It's been over 40 years, so who knows. But yeah, life on those ships were fun. Another story on Royal Viking that happened, we had a murder. And here's what happened. On those ships we had suites, and there was a woman who was quite wealthy, and she had this gentleman companion. I don't think they were lovers, just her companions. She wanted someone to have dinner with her, go on tours with her, dance with her, whatever. But as far as we know, they weren't like, having a relationship. It was strictly business. So anyway, what happened was we were doing a crossing from America to Europe. I think we're going to Barcelona, but I'm not positive. And they got into an argument, and he got drunk, and he hit her in the head with a wine bottle, killed her. And then he calls up the front desk, all upset, crying, everything. I'm sorry, I killed her, I didn't mean to, she called me this, whatever. Security came up there, they take him down to the brig. Every ship has a brig, a jail on board. They also have a morgue. And they put him in the jail. Again, we're like 4 or 5 days out from getting to Spain. And so, what does the ship do? Like, they don't get a statement from him or anything. And they go in and clean the cabin. Clean it, sterilize everything, throw away the wine bottle, the whole 9 yards, take her body down to the morgue. And the next day, they come down and the staff captain wants to interview him and says, okay, I think they were going to record it and everything. Okay, so tell me what happened. Why did you kill her? He goes, I didn't kill her. She fell down and hit her head. Well, last night you said that she hit her, that you hit her in the head with a wine bottle. No, I didn't. I didn't say that. She fell down and hit her head. You know, she's drunk. I don't know. She always gets like that. She fell and hit her head. I don't know what's wrong with her. Make a long story short, we get to Barcelona. They go to the authorities there. They didn't want nothing to do with it. Well, you got any evidence? You got any fingerprints? You got anything? No. Confession? No. Happened in international waters? You know, 1,000 miles from land? They want nothing to do with it. Port after port after port in the Mediterranean. We want nothing to do with it. Contacted the Americans. We don't want nothing to do with it. They packed up his shit, sent him off the ship. He got away with murder. So, you know, those things happen on ships, at least back then. Today, there's cameras everywhere, and they probably would have done a much better job today. They would have videoed his confession, I think, from first day, and I don't think you could get away with that today. One other story about another ship I was on. This was the Ss Norway. Again, it was during a crossing. Again, another wealthy woman, sailing alone this time, and she had gone in her cabin and locked the door. So these days, when you went into the cabin, you had to lock it from the inside. Today, when you close the door, they lock automatically. Like hotels, so you close the door, it's locked. Like if you forget your key, you're locked out. It wasn't that way back then. You had to actually lock the door, you know, when you went inside. So her door was locked from the inside. And the porthole was open, and she had jumped out the porthole and disappeared. And they had to break down the door to get her out, to get in there, and never found her, obviously, because they didn't know when she went over. But, you know, those things happen. We had another guy on a ship. It's starting to rain really heavily right now, so I may have to stop this. By the way, we had an earthquake yesterday, 5.3. It's rainy season though in the Philippines. My favorite time of year, I love it. And we had a guy on the ship, and he was going around like he was a secret agent. He was with a family, and he was like pretending like he's talking to a secret microphone, you know, taking notes. He'd sit down with somebody and start talking to like his secret microphone. He obviously had issues. But anyway, he's going to the casino and just gambling on everything. You know, gambling, charged into his cabin. And he spent like, I don't know what it was, like $20,000, $30,000 in a casino. And then they had art auctions on the ship there. And he was bidding on all the art. He was outbidding everybody. Like they have art auctions, he's outbidding every single person. No matter what came up, he would outbid them. And at the end of the cruise, they said, you know, you got to pay for all this art and the casino bill. And he goes, well, I was just playing. I don't really want the art. I was just, you know, I just thought it was for fun. I know it's for real. And he got out of paying for the art, but the casino, they weren't having it. They weren't having it. And they wouldn't let him off the ship until the family came up with the money. And somehow they paid it. Let's see. One other crazy story. I'm jumping around here in time and place and ships, and just kind of giving you the crazy stuff that happens on cruise ships. But I was on a Royal Caribbean ship. I think it was the Voyager of the Seas. And it was during the summertime with a lot of families on board for their kids. And on the Voyager of the Seas, there's a champagne bar. And in the champagne bar, there's a big plexiglass box, about 4 feet high, about 2 feet square. And inside of it is a big bottle of Moët champagne, a real bottle of Moët champagne from the, you know, the bottle or whatever in France. I mean, it's like this big around, you know, huge bottle of champagne on display. Not for sale, it's just on display. It's like a collector's thing or whatever. So anyway, like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, these teenagers get the idea, well, we'll just go steal that champagne. How we'll get away with it. So they went there and they somehow broke the plexiglass box open, take this great big bottle of champagne, warm champagne, back to their room, somehow managed to get the cork out of it, drink like probably equal to maybe 2 or 3 bottles of it, And of course, there's cameras all over. Everything was captured. And next morning, security knocks on the door. You know, kids say, oh, we're sorry, you know. We'll pay for it. I said, yeah, I know you will. They brought him to the staff captain, had the whole family up there, and said, well, here's the deal. You can pay for the champagne and the damages, or Jamaica's our next port. We'll send you off to Jamaica and turn you over to the police there, and they will arrest you, and we will press charges against you, and you will go to jail. And they're like freaking out. Oh, no, we'll pay for it. How much is it? $17,000. $17,000. And the family had to pay it. And then they kicked them off the ship anyway, Jamaica, the whole family. So anyway, just some of the stuff that happened. But, you know, life on cruise ships, the way I described it, the way I thought of it, is it's the closest you can get to working on the Starship Enterprise in our point in history. You think about it. I mean, I'm on a cruise ship. We have 5,000 passengers on these big ones, 5,000 passengers, 3,000 officers and crew from as many as like 20 to 30 different countries. That's the officers and crew. And so you go to the crew bar and you're hanging out with people from all over the world and all kinds of religions, you know, political views, young, old, gay, straight, you name it. And guess what? We all get along just fine. No problem. I never see a fight between crew members, very few arguments or anything like that. You know, like Yugoslavia split up into Croatia and Serbia. We have Croatians and Serbs on the same ship. They get along fine. They don't have a problem. You know, Russians, I've had lots of Russian friends, you name it. People from Vietnam. It's very, very different, and it's kind of humbling that it can be done. You can be friends with people from all different nationalities and religions and never have any problem at all if you just work at it. So working on a cruise ship was great. I'm really sad to see what's happening today with the COVID-19 virus. I've had friends that are still stuck on ships. They're still out there. Many of them were on ships for 2 to 3 months and not getting paid. Here in the Philippines where I live, thousands of crew members have lost their jobs and been sent home from all over the world. Never know when they'll work again. So I'm lucky, I'm really fortunate that I was there during the golden days. And I've got so many more stories to tell you, things I did, things I experienced, and I hope you'll stay tuned. Got some secret stuff I'll tell you that you probably didn't know about that's not going on anymore, so I can tell you about it. And hope to see you again. Stay tuned. And thanks again for all your nice comments. I really appreciate it. And please, no more stuff about Buzz Aldrin that we didn't really go to the moon. We did go to the moon, moon rocks, a ton of them, distributed universities around the world. The Russians and the Chinese have orbited the moon and taken high definition spy-like photographs of the surface of the moon. If they wanted to embarrass us, it'd be very easy to do. Say, oh look, there's no moon landing or no rover. All the things are supposed to be there's not there. So it's there. There's even a Buzz told me about some kind of disc they put there that they bounce a laser off of from Earth to measure the distance to the moon. That's been there from day one. And the thing about Buzz is he doesn't like to talk about that. You know, that was a long, long time ago. He asked me about me. I spent most of the time when I was having dinner with him telling him about my life and what I was doing, what it was like on a ship and my family. And, you know, he just puts you at ease and you're talking about yourself and you forget like, wow, this is the second man in the world that walked on the moon. He walked on the moon. And he's hanging out with me, and he wants to know about me. But that was the genius of the guy, you know. He could turn the conversation around and get you talking about, you know, sports or the port you were just in or the ship or whatever. And next thing you know, 2 hours go by and you say goodnight. And you go, wow, I never got to ask him about aliens. So that's the way it was. So anyway, guys, thanks for watching. I appreciate all your comments. I try and answer as many as I can. And I will continue to do that as long as I can. So have a great night and thanks again. Bye.